Hi, my name is Angela, and in this video I'm going to talk about research in pharmacy, specifically talking about my experience as a pharmacy student and how I got involved with research. Research was a really big unknown thing when I was in pharmacy school, and I was really lucky and fortunate that I got experience, so I thought I would share that and kind of give people who are curious about what research looks like in pharmacy or even just in general. I wanted to do a video on that. So currently I'm a PGY1 resident. I'm going into the field of ambulatory care, and I'm just doing this YouTube channel to hopefully give some advice to those of you who may find it helpful. So the question kind of comes up, when will I learn about research? Will I be involved in it? In pharmacy school, I learned about research, particularly in my biostatistics course. So that's where you're going to learn about just, how evidence-based medicine is kind of the practice, at least in the US, when it comes to what do we give our patients when we want them to be healthy and well. We rely on evidence, and that comes from clinical trials and things like that. So evidence-based medicine involves research, and that's how we get there. We get to those conclusions that yes, when I give this certain drug or this intervention, I have reason to believe that it's going to work because there's been studies on it and things like that. So you'll learn how the studies are designed in this course, the many different types. You'll learn about ethics, statistics, a lot of math that comes with that. And then after all these research components have been overviewed and you kind of understand what's been studied and the outcome, how does it then apply to clinical practice and to your role as a pharmacist or a physician or whatever. So I learned the most about I learned the most about research in biostatistics before I went on to apply it and get involved in a project. You'll learn it all throughout pharmacotherapy courses because as you learn guidelines, as you understand recommendations, there's going to be what are called landmark trials or these research studies that had such a broad impact on changing the course of therapy or changing the standard of therapy. So you're going to understand how research plays a role in pharmacotherapy courses if you're a pharmacy student. They may go into the details when you're describing a study. I remember teachers going through details of the study, and some would just name the study versus going into how it was designed, and they may point out the problems with it and maybe why it shouldn't have been a landmark trial in some cases. But usually they're just describing, okay, who was studied, what was the outcome, and why did it matter. So you'll hear that just in courses throughout pharmacy school. So you may wonder, should I get involved with research? If you're not going into retail pharmacy, I would say you probably should, because it very well may be a part of your job. Now, of course, I don't know all the fields of pharmacy. Maybe if you're going into specific areas that don't involve research, then you can know that. But otherwise, I think getting experience would be very good. Certainly for residency, which is what I focus on this channel, it'd be very good because likely your residency is going to involve you either being in charge of a project or writing a manuscript or submitting for IRB approval, or you're going to be part of the research process of that institution. So I would get experience before you have to do it in residency so that you can build upon your knowledge versus starting your baseline knowledge. And two, it's going to make you competitive. The more involved that you are showing yourself to be and the more work you put into making yourself a good candidate makes you more competitive. And then, I just think that there's a lot of exposure, the benefits to being exposed in pharmacy school. So you get some of the basics out of the way. So then you can build on it, and you're really making the best use out of your time during residency, because as a pharmacy student, it's probably better to get that baseline exposure, baseline skills, and then in residency, you can hear from the experts and dive deeper and get even better. So my experience, I was only involved in one research project when I was a student. I started my P3 year, December of my P3 year. So to me, that was late, but I also didn't really know a lot about it. Again, I'm doing this video because I was kind of like, I don't really know about research, don't really want to do it, so I'm going to put it off. But I was fortunate to have one of my mentors approach me with a project she was working on, and I jumped in at the point of data analysis. So you have kind of the question that's being developed within a research project and the approval of that study of that question and the design and all the ethics and things like that. So then you have the actual implementation where you're doing the study, you're collecting the data, and then I jumped in at this next part was the analysis and kind of more of the math work, I guess. And so mine was a project relating to academic research, so pharmacy education and studying benefits or, different interventions in that area. So it's not clinical, but I did the data analysis portion, and then from that we came up with the results and determined if we answered our question and what the result was. And then I did a lot of the presentation portion or read up, I guess, academically or, you know, getting into that scholarly type of work that comes with research. If I'm phrasing that correctly. But I was the only student working on this project. You honestly could have many students working on the project with you if you are part of a school, pharmacy school that wants to give a lot of students exposure. Again, the IRB and all that stuff, the experiment had already been designed and it happened. I just did the stats and helped interpret it. So I was able to create 2 posters. It was basically the same poster, just revised, but it was for 2 different online virtual presentations because it was during COVID time. So I also applied for another one and got rejected. So definitely know that happens. And it was my very first time I ever submitted something, and the feedback was really helpful and informative. So that always can happen, and you just got to be ready for it and just keep on going. So I ended up presenting 2 more times after that. So it all went okay. And I'm sure everyone who will tell you about research when you're submitting for something or a journal or a different area, look at their submission requirements before you start writing, because you could end up putting in a lot of work and then having to either cut half of it or change a lot of things and do extra things because it doesn't fit for that specific organization or that specific journal's requirements. So just save yourself some work, look at their requirements before you even start, and then you can just fit what you're writing to what they want. So after I did a couple posters and abstracts and submissions and things like that, I was able to help write a manuscript. Basically, I tried to put together the bones of the manuscript, and then it was a lot of collaboration with all the other people working on it, multiple reiterations and adjustments and changes, and we had a change in like the really main direction we wanted to go in it. So that was a long process. I would say almost about 6 or 8 months in total, and I was able to do that at P4 year mainly during my rotations. So curious to see how that'll go this year in residency, being involved in a research project. If that'll go faster or shorter, I don't know. But we submitted it to a journal, and I still don't know, I guess, if it's been approved or will be published. But you'll need to do a couple different things when you get involved with research. I kind of gave a broad overview of my experience, but also what's involved. You're going to have to do some training and get education in specifically what a researcher or an investigator does. So that's going to be outside of your pharmacy curriculum that you'll have to do. It's online training, it's not too bad, and it's pretty standardized. And then there's some other areas, you know, I used Google Excel for the data analysis, and also SPSS, which is a data software analytics thing. I'm not very good at math, but you had to learn those tools. There's also REDCap, which is a data storage and I think analysis tool that's very commonly used. Basically, that's extra work you're going to have to do, learning what those tools are and learning from your team or learning from your mentor. That's not going to be built into your pharmacy education. So yeah, I understand it's going to take more work, but it's also going to take extra work if you're doing it on your job. So honestly, I think the best benefit is just doing it when you're a student if you can, and then getting better at it once you're already in your job. So overall advice, again, if you're in retail, I just don't think you need to do it, so you could probably avoid it. But if you're in any other field, just ask yourself, will it help me? Any experience will help. So again, mine wasn't clinical, but it really helped me apply what I learned in biostatistics, what I learned in my pharmacotherapy courses to a real, actual, study. So that really helped solidify my knowledge and helped me grow. So I was really glad I did it. I would tell anyone to do it, again, if they're not in retail. And then it helps your writing skills as well. Again, there were multiple reiterations of that manuscript, so I really learned how to be concise, hopefully, and how to draft what I thought was a coherent type of discussion of our research project. So it'll help your writing skills, which will also help, again, if you're not in retail or if you're involved in that kind of work in pharmacy. So try to find something you're interested in. If you have a lot of options, try to find something that you're interested in that will help the work be easier. I'm interested in academia, so it actually did help me with that academic-based research project. But if you're not into it, again, I would still do it for the experience if you could. Try to get someone to help you, ask if there's another student who's wanting to get involved, help split up the work so you don't have to work as hard while you're going through everything else you're going through in pharmacy school. I will share different experiences of my research and residency in later videos, but hopefully this overview was helpful for my experience as a pharmacy student. If you like the video, like it, and then share it with someone you think it could be helpful for. If you have any recommendations of what you want me to talk about, please put them in the comments, and I will see you guys next week.